Have you ever had anyone that is adamant about telling you what you can and can't do? So trying to steer your life when it's your life. So I'll give you a few examples. Them controlling what you wear, or controlling where you go, keeping tabs on you as well, or even controlling who you see. So they're uncomfortable or not happy with you seeing a certain person because they're jealous or just uncomfortable. Doesn't matter what the underlying reason is. They've blatantly said to you, I don't want you to see XY person. And I guess the natural question back would be, why? So when they give you a reason and that reason isn't really relevant or making sense, and you know it's not making sense because it is sounding like it's coming from a position of control, not a position of reality. It's more about what they want. And then when you explain yourself and they double down on more of the control by perhaps even spinning it around and saying, why would you do this to me? You know how it makes me feel. Why would you hang out with XYZ? Or why would you go to that place when you know it makes me feel uncomfortable? So then they spin it, try and make you feel guilty to create an outcome that they want. Well, all of that is coercive control. And I'm sure that most of us have experienced that in our life. It could have come from a spouse, could come from a friend, could come from your own sister, your own brother, someone in your family, could come from anyone really. But you know and I know that that is not healthy. And you can start off by trying setting healthy boundaries. And this is where mediation can come in. So often I get couples who are experiencing a lot of friction and a lot of conflict and high conflict, where we've got two people who are in a loving relationship, but for some reason there's been communication breakdowns. And when one person isn't communicating exactly what they want, they're acting out of a fear-based position, not an informative and communicative style position. They are just basically feeling like they're losing control, so they double down by gaining control, and they often don't realize that that pushes people away further, not bringing them in, because that person's not they've had enough, the other person, and they're not willing to cater to their unrealistic expectations. So when the other person starts placing boundaries in place, they start feeling like they're losing control, so they double down hard. And they might even start getting other people involved and trying to tarnish your name, or making up stories just so they can claim some sort of control, because they're clamoring around, they're trying to get what they want, which is you doing exactly what they want, which is at the end result trying to control you. Now, we all know that's part of the abuse wheel. It's if you look it up, do your own research, it's part of an abusive situation someone can be in. And you don't have to be in a relationship, in an intimate relationship with the opposite sex or the same sex, to say it's abusive. You can be abusive to your sibling, you can be abusive to your friend. It really doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse. So basically where I'm going with this is, if you have somebody who's in your life that is doing that to you, and you have done everything in your power to let them understand that I will no longer tolerate this, I will only agree to these certain bits and pieces, and those certain bits and pieces is your freedom, basically. So you could say things like, I'm willing to discuss this when you're calm and when you're not putting these expectations on me. And I'm also not willing to give into your high expectations of me not going to this place that I enjoy because it's a good part of my life, or me going to see this person because they are a good person in my life and I thoroughly enjoy their company. And it's not to spite you, even if that's what they believe, that it's to have that person in your life. Then I'm sorry, I'm not willing to engage in this conversation. If they're still continuing to act like a child and not meet you at a crossroads where you're willing to have that conversation, even though it makes you uncomfortable, and they're still doubling down on the anger and the frustration and still trying to dish out more manipulation, then you really need to take a step back. And perhaps that's where I come in. I have helped a lot of couples in situations like this where they've come to me for remediation. I call it remediation because it's restorative mediation. And basically, it needs to happen when two people are willing, though. So if you think you can drag a person that you're having conflict in, it's not going to work. You need to be able to be at least in a particular space in your life where the other person is willing to wade through the uncomfortable conflict and willing to use better communication styles to try and reach an outcome and gather these resources and tools that I will provide, and you will both put them to good use to see if things happen in a way that, with better communication skills and better ways to explain things, that you will then be able to move forward and have a deeper, more meaningful part of your friendship or relationship, or whatever that conflict is and whoever that conflict is with. Now, apart from that, if that is not going to work and you've been to mediation, then I suggest you start looking at other avenues, because what you're going to do is you're going to be stuck in an abusive relationship that it might not be physical, but abuse is abuse. And if they're still using coercive control and manipulation tactics to try and get an outcome they want, then it's still abuse, and you'll need to speak to a professional about that. 1-800-RESPECT. It can be Lifeline, go to the doctor and get a mental health plan, or get a referral to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Anything you need to do to make you feel safe. And that's just not you physically. That can be you mentally, it can be you spiritually, it can be emotionally, it doesn't matter. You matter. And I think the biggest thing that anyone has ever said to me that I never really realized when I was going through a particular hard time in my life before I was a mediator, and was one of the reasons why I became a mediator, was because I didn't believe, and this was subconsciously, I didn't realize at the time, I didn't believe I deserved healthy relationships, because I believed that I was made to believe that my life is forever going to be just putting up with someone else's rubbish, and that, if I can just make them see through my way of dealing with it, that they would eventually come to understand what they're doing to me and stop the abuse. But that didn't happen. I ended up having to leave that person and seek help, and ended up going down my own avenue of learning psychology, and then down the track becoming a mediator, for it to come a full circle and realize just how bad of a situation that I was in that I didn't know before. So if you're in these type of situations and you're listening and what I'm saying is resonating and it's hitting some key points there, at the very least, can I encourage you to do your own research and see whether this is something that you need to look into yourself and seek help, get out of the situation if you need to get out of that situation, or speak to a supportive person, someone you feel safe with, and just start living your authentic life, start living your best life. We get one life, and sometimes we get stuck and trapped in these ways of thinking that I did. I didn't think that I deserved certain things, and I thought I was trapped. You're not trapped. You just need a good way out, and getting a good way out is putting a plan together with a professional or with someone you trust, and just putting that first step forward in making those choices, and going out there and just cutting ties with that person who is holding you back. Because I can tell you now, it is so relieving once that happens, and that person you can't get a conclusion with that person, and mediation does not work, and the only choice left is to leave them, or whatever other choice that's on the cards that can help your situation. Then being a part of that and part of your growth journey is I can tell you now,